This is a Film Stories original podcast. Welcome back everyone to the X-Cast. The truth is in here. I'm your host Tony Black and welcome back to I Want to Believe Minute, where we unpick the second X-Files movie 1 minute at a time. Today, helping me to explore minute 83, running from approximately 82 minutes as Dacyshyn sits by Tomaszyn's bedside through to 82 minutes and 59 seconds as Mulder wrestles with the lock to the gates of the compound, is recurring X-Cast guest Wayne Talbot. Wayne, welcome back for
Hello.
Another minute.
Yes, and this is the hot minutes are starting to come into it here.
Hot minutes, yeah, I like that. Hot. I Want to Believe hot minutes. That's what we should have called this podcast.
That sounds a bit too spicy.
Well, yeah.
People probably expected something else, like
It
ASMR, X-Files, or something like that.
Yeah, some fan fiction out there probably about this. That's true. But yeah, we talked in the last minute about how these minutes were on are escalation, really, for the suspense of the climax that's kicking in. But we switch here. We've got Mulder obviously approaching this compound in a minute, but we switch to Dacyshyn, Dacyshyn, which is the Callum Keith Rennie villain, quote unquote, if you like. And he's by the bedside of his lover Tomacszyn as we start inside the compound. And he's talking to him and he's kind of reassuring him, but it's very low dialogue, isn't it? And he's talking, I think, in English at this point, because there's quite a lot of Ukrainian dialogue in this. There's quite a lot of Ukrainian going on, for which Callum Keith Rennie, who plays the role, worked hard to try and get right. Apparently, quite an attention to detail for him. But there's kind of a low conversation, and it feels quite an intimate moment, really, that we're sort of witnessing in a strange way here. I don't know if you got that impression.
Very much so. I think the affection that you can see him put across to to Thomas on the actual gurney, it's clear, it's there, and there is definitely there is a love between these two characters, and obviously the whole reason why he's doing all of this is solely for this person that he cares about, but it's evil doings for kind of self-fulfilling means. He's doing it for somebody that he loves, doing it for himself, and it's twisted and wrong in all different ways. It is a weird thing to happen in the setting that it's in, like this kind of, it's like everything seems to be coloured yellow, and I don't know if swearing is allowed, piss coloured yellow kind of feeling to this whole place. It just feels unsanitary, and it's this moment where you kind of realize actually he's doing this for this particular reason. Should you feel like there's moments and there's characters in this movie where you're kind of going, should I feel sorry for this person? And he isn't the only one, and you're kind of going, should I feel sorry for them, or should I just be thinking, are these just pure evil? And I think this is scene that's meant to be showing that level of kind of humanity to this character, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, there's a lot, especially in this day and age, there are a lot of approaches to this story that consider it quite reductive in terms of transsexual, kind of politics and this kind of thing, which I absolutely understand. As much as I'm not a trans person, I'm not from the LGBT community. I totally get where people are coming from on this. So there's a level of distaste from some people about it. But I think the intention is to try and get across a sensitivity to the quote-unquote villain, because Dacyshyn, you could argue, is in that pantheon of the kind of creepy X-Files villains we've seen in similar stories on the TV show, like your your Luther Lee Boggs from Beyond the Sea, or although he's got more in common with Father Joe, I suppose. But
very much so. Yeah, I think so.
You could say like Carl Wade from Oubliette, I suppose, would be a good comparison. But he's not quite the same. I think there is, his motivations ultimately are to save the person he loves, I think. So I don't think it's necessarily as simple as that. I think there's more of a sensitivity with this guy than was there in some of the worst kind of evil, sadistic villain, serial killer kind of characters, murderers in the X-Files TV show, which makes it even more interesting, I think, in many ways. And I'm not saying that the relationship is perfect and the way this is portrayed is perfect, because I know it very much isn't. But I definitely think there's an intention there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like it's like the intention is good, but the method is way off. Like you're off the reservation with how you're going about these things. I think it doesn't hold a lot of water for me. Even back when I saw it, it was because there was a confusion in 2008. Me going, why go to that length of such a thing? Like why? Like there's other methods and ways of doing it. Legal ways that you could do it, but it was all down to the cancer treatment and but it was down to the fact that the person was dying of an illness and so on and so forth. But it was such a twisted and weird way of going about it, and again, it made it feel less like an X-Files thing, because it was more about the inhumanity of man than it was about the unknown. There wasn't a level of like, this is not the truth is out there. This is the serial killer, and these body snatchers are out there, and they're all human. So there's no monster here. The monster is people. It is, and I know the X-Files visited that idea multiple times, but there was always a supernatural twist to it in some way. But I don't know. I think in this particular moment, the character showed a certain level of compassion for one individual. But the lack of compassion of the victims, or towards the victims, or even the hesitation of anything towards the victims, they were just seen as a means to an end. So there was I still don't think it was a heavily redeeming aspect to the character.
No, absolutely, because ultimately he's kidnapped Cheryl, Nikki Aycox's character, and taken her to an absolute Frankenstein's lab, hasn't he? Ultimately, 100%. And he's about to cut off her head. So there's absolutely no redeeming stuff there. Just before we get to that, just about Tomacszyn, though, I think a brilliant fact which I got from the commentary is that when you see Tomacszyn's body lying there, that's not actually a person, that's a fake body, which I thought was an incredible fact. And actually there is a man underneath blowing air into a tube to simulate breathing of the body, but that's actually a fake body, which is just remarkable, actually, because it looks so realistic, So I think they did a really good job on that work there. And Frank Spotnitz makes the point that's why they can show an actual needle when the doctor, Alex Diakon's doctor, Yurov Koltov, when he puts the needle in to Tomacszyn, you see it fully go in. And he said the only way we could do that was if the body was a fake, basically. They wouldn't have been able to show that were it a real person, or even do it were it a real person. So he said that's a fun fact. And another fun fact is when you see Nikki Aycox being lowered into this ice vat, this weird vat, apparently that was a lovely warm bath. Which is really nice to know. So she was absolutely having a lovely time. If you had to at this point,
it's like a day at the spa for her.
Yeah. Get the Radox in there, having a grab well away in these weird situations. But going back to the setting and everything, it is very Frankenstein, isn't it? I mean, this whole film is very Frankenstein, and I suppose you can, there's an argument to be made that Frankenstein is riven throughout the entirety of the X-Files from day one, basically, in so many ways. And it's such a massive inspiration for Carter, which, I mean, makes sense because Frankenstein has pretty much inspired almost all science fiction for the last 200 years.
It's the first ever science fiction novel, so I mean,
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, it's a absolute Rosetta Stone, I suppose. But the X-Files has been exploring these kind of ideas for so long, but it really does feel like Carter's properly barreling into it in this film, in that he really wants to get that kind of modern aesthetic over, really.
Yeah. It reminded me of the episode of Buffy when they were trying to make a cheerleader bits and pieces for the brothers. Remember the episode of Buffy where the brothers, a quarterback gets killed and he bring him back, and then they want to make the Bride of Frankenstein for it, and it was like just collecting all the cheerleader parts, and then they kidnap Cordelia. That's what this reminded me of. It was pretty much the same story, because he wanted to build a body for his love, and they were just collecting women. So it was like, I was sitting there going, it does have that ring, because myself and my wife only recently watched that episode of Buffy a while ago, and it was like, yeah. And then watching the film, I was like, this is just an episode of Buffy. So again,
has Chris Carter ripped off Buffy? I think we will get this conspiracy theory going. Actually, he watched the episode of Buffy and went, actually, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
So no, I mean, but yeah, that's the thing. So many of these ideas recur, don't they?
Yeah.
But it's a really evocative, creepy, like you say, dirty lab setting. Really, it's really good in that way, and that's why it's good to get Alex Dacyshyn in there, because he's an old X-Files hand. Alex Dacyshyn, he traditionally known for the comedy episodes, particularly the Darren Morgan comedy episodes. He'd pop up in almost all of those, but he's an absolute X-Files staple. I think he then comes back in season 11 or 10. I think he might be in Weir Monster or one of them. I can't quite remember, but yeah, he's very good playing that kind of creepy doctor character.
He is he's the hotel guy in Weir Monster, because I actually watched that this morning. He's the creepy hotel guy that goes around perving at everyone through the heads of the animals. So yeah.
Have long tried to get him on the X-Cast actually as an interview, and we've never quite got there with him. I think he's quite elusive to get hold of. I'm pretty sure that he's friends with, is it Scott Bellis, who played Max Fennig, and Scott said that he'd try and hook us up, connect us up. I think it was Scott. Somebody anyway, but it never quite came off. So Alex, if you are listening, do please get in touch, because we would love to get you on the X-Cast and talk to you, especially as we're getting into season 10 as well.
He did 5 episodes in total, and then the movie. So 5 episodes of the X-Files between 95 and obviously 2018, because he was in the Werebeast.
Yeah. I suppose finally, to wrap this minute up, we've got Mulder approaching the compound from the outside, and he goes towards the lock. I think the setting from the outside of this is very X-Files as well, because he goes up to like a gate. It's classic sort of almost like approaching a base. When you go and like try and find UFOs in a base. It's that same kind of. This is what you're getting to when you're talking about it feeling very X-Files. It's the same, even though it's on a much smaller scale. I think the setting is very evocative of that idea, with Mulder getting into somewhere.
Yes, 100%.
So yeah, that works great. But let's talk a bit more about that in the next minute, and we'll come back and do minute 84, and we can get into some details about that. So I'll see you then, Wayne.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be back to do minute 84 very soon, guys. Thanks for listening. But remember, until next time, trust no one.